Hi, I'm Tom from Sophos Support. Welcome to the second part in our STAS video series, which covers installation and configuration. In part 1, I give an overview of the basic network setup and the function of STAS. The link to this part is in the description. In this part, I will guide you through the configuration steps for a Sophos firewall, the Windows AD group policy, and the installation and configuration of STAS. I will be demonstrating with Sophos Firewall version 18.5 and STAS version 2.5.1. Please note, for STAS to function properly, you will need a valid base firewall license. Let's get started. We will start with the Sophos Firewall configuration. In Sophos Central, go to Administration. In Device Access, enable client authentication on zones where STAS and the user workstation are located. In our case, the Windows server and the workstation are in the LAN zone. Next, I will configure AD domain controller as the authentication server. Go to Authentication, click Add. Then add the details of ADDC. The server type is Active Directory. On the server name, enter an appropriate name. Server IP is the IP address of the ADDC. In our case, it is 192.168.20.5. For connection security, you can choose either plain text or SSL TLS. We highly recommend against the plain text connections, as this can be security risk. As for SSL TLS, you'll need to ensure that SSL has been enabled on the Windows LDAP service for this to work. Check out the documentation linked in the description for further information. Set the port to 636. This is the default port for Active Directory with SSL or TLS enabled. NetBIOS domain will be the NetBIOS name of the AD domain. ADS username can be any account in AD domain admins group. Domain name is the fully qualified domain name of the AD. Search queries must be the LDAP search query, which covers all AD users that needs to be detected by STAS and the Sophos Firewall. For more information on search queries and filters that can be used, refer to the documentation linked in the description. Once the configuration is complete, click Test Connection to make sure the Sophos Firewall can communicate with AD domain controller. Save the configuration settings. Now you can add your group. We recommend that you import an AD group into Sophos Firewall to make it easy for user management. Using the Import Group wizard, I will import the group IT from the AD domain controller. If we navigate the Group tab, we can see that the IT group has now been imported into Sophos Firewall. Then go to Service. On the Firewall authentication methods, add the domain controller as the authentication server. Now, create a firewall rule to give the IT group access to the WAN zone. As rules can vary between environments, you will find the documentation attached in the description on rule creation. When creating a firewall rule, I recommend keeping Use Web Authentication for unknown users disabled, so that STAS can detect users by logon type 1. If this is enabled, web authentication occurs instead if Sophos Firewall doesn't detect a live user on a workstation. Now, go to Authentication, STAS. Enable and activate STAS. I highly recommend changing the STAS default settings. By default, the identity probe timeout period is 120 seconds or 2 minutes. We will set the identity probe timeout to 3 seconds. Most importantly, set restrict client traffic during identity probe to no. If this is enabled, workstations will be disconnected and have restricted traffic until re-authenticated. I also recommend activating Enable User Inactivity. Sophos Firewall will then remove any inactive users from the list of live users. The next step is to add the STA collector into Sophos Firewall. Click on Add New Collector, enter the IP address of the STA collector, and keep the default port number. For redundancy, Sophos firewall supports multiple STA collectors. If there are two STA collectors for the same AD domain, we can put them into the same collector group. Now we need to configure the default domain group policy to make sure event ID 4768 is generated when a user logs into a workstation. On the domain controller, open Group Policy Management. Right-click on Default Domain Policy and choose Edit. Navigate to Computer Configuration, Policies, Windows Settings, Security Settings, Audit Policy, then open Audit Account Logon Events, and change policy settings to Success and Failure. Next, go to Advanced Audit Policy Configuration, Audit Policies, Account Logon. Open Audit Kerberos Authentication Service, and set Audit Event to Success and Failure. Finally, go to Logon Log Off, and set Audit Logon to Success and Failure as well. In our example, we configure the STA collector to use WMI as the workstation pooling method. We'll need to create a firewall rule in this group policy to ensure that workstation accepts inbound WMI. Go to Windows Firewall with Advanced Security. Create a new inbound rule. Set the rule type to WMI. In predefined rules, check WMI in. Set the action to allow the connection. Now, all workstations in the domain will accept inbound WMI request. Now, let's configure Windows Firewall rule to allow traffic between the STA agent and the STA collector, and between the STA collector and the Sophos firewall. First, configure the firewall rule on the ADDC where STA agent was installed. The agent needs to establish outbound connection to TCP port 5566 and UDP port 50001, and accept inbound connections on UDP port 50001. By default, Windows Firewall allows all outbound connection, so no configuration should be needed here. However, if the default action for outbound connection is blocked, we need to create a firewall rule to allow this. Creating outbound rules is very straightforward. Open Windows Firewall with Advanced Security. Right-click on Outbound Rules, then click on New Rules. Allow TCP port 5566. Then create another outbound rule to allow UDP port 50001. Next, create a firewall rule to allow inbound connection to UDP port 50001. Right-click on Inbound Rules, then click on New Rule. Allow UDP port 50001. This completes the Windows Firewall configuration for the STA agent. We also need to configure Windows Firewall on the server where STA collector was installed. The STA collector established outbound connection to UDP port 6060 on the Sophos firewall, and the UDP port 50001 on the agent. It accepts inbound connection on TCP port 5566, UDP port 6677, and 50001. As mentioned before, by default, Windows Firewall allows all outbound connection, so no configuration should be needed. However, if the outbound connections are blocked, we need to create a firewall rule to allow the outbound traffic. On the Windows server, open Windows Firewall with Advanced Security. Right-click on Outbound Rules, then click on New Rules. Allow UDP port 6060 and 50001. Next, create inbound rules to accept the connections from the STA agent and Sophos firewall. Right-click on Inbound Rules, then click on New Rule. Allow inbound connection on TCP port 5566. Then create another new rule. This will accept inbound connection on UDP port 6677 and 50001. Okay, we now completed the Windows firewall configuration for the STA collector. The next step is to install the STA agent on the ADDC. First, download STAS from the Sophos Firewall web admin. Then, log into Domain Controller as a member of the AD Domain Admins group and install the STA agent. Right-click on the installer file and run as administrator. This will prevent any potential permission issue on Windows. For the type of setup, choose STA agent. Then provide AD Domain Admin account information and password. It is not necessary to be the administrator, but you must be a member of Domain Admins group. Click Next and then complete the installation. Now, let's configure the STA agent. Open STAS on the Domain Controller. In the General tab, enter the NetBIOS name of the AD domain together with the fully qualified domain name. And then click Start to launch the agent. Wait a moment and the current status of STA agent will display Start. If the STA agent can't be started, please double-check the administrator credentials, NetBIOS name, and fully qualified domain name. Then go to the STA agent tab. Set STA agent mode to event log. The domain controller IP must be blank if the STA agent is installed on ADDC. In this video, I installed the STA agent on the ADDC, so the option should be blank. Monitor networks is the network address of the AD workstations. In our example, it is 192.168.20.0/24. On the collector list, click Add to add the IP address of our STA collector. In our example, this is 192.168.20.9. Remember to click on OK to save the configuration. Sometimes the STAS service may fail to start. When this happens, you will receive an error message showing a logon failure. There's a quick fix to this. Go to Windows Service, find the Sophos Transparent Authentication Suite. Right-click on it and choose Properties. Go to Logon tab, enter the AD Domain Admin account and password again. Return to the STA agent, click the Start button, and now the STA agent should start. If STA agent still can't be started, please contact Sophos technical support to fix the problem. With the STA agent installed and configured, our next step is to install the STA collector on the Windows server. We will use the same STAS install file used to install the STA agent. Log into Windows Server as a member of the AD Domain Admins group. Right-click the installer and run as administrator. This time, choose STA collector for the setup type. Provide the AD Domain Admin account information together with its password. Again, it's not necessary to be an administrator, but you must be a member of the AD Domain Admins group. Click Next and then complete the installation. Now, let's configure the STA collector. Open STAS on the Windows Server. In the General tab, enter the NetBIOS name of the AD domain, as well as a fully qualified domain name. Then, click on Start button to launch the STA agent. Now go to STA Collector tab. In Sophos Appliance, enter the internal IP address of your Sophos firewall. For workstation polling method, I will use WMI. Then enable logoff detection and set detection method to workstation polling. Data entry timeout must be set to 0. Any other value will prevent STAS from working. Next, go to the Exclusion List tab. We recommend configuring login user exclusion list to stop the STA collector from detecting unnecessary usernames, such as the background service account, which is normally used by the antivirus software update. Here I will add TrendUpD, TrendUpD2, and OKTS service. You might need to add other usernames depending on the software installed on your workstation. This prevents AD users from being logged off from Sophos Firewall when a background service account logs into a workstation. Please note, the login user exclusion list is not case sensitive. In addition, entries must be username only. Do not include the prefix of NetBIOS name or the suffix of domain name. We also need to configure the login IP address or network exclusion list. STAS is designed to detect users on workstations and not servers, so we need to filter out any usernames on Windows servers. Add the IP address of any server, for example, Citrix Terminal Server, Microsoft RDS Server, DNS Server, or Web Server. Here, I will enter the IP address of the DNS server and Web server. Click OK to save the configuration. Then start STAS again. Returning to the General tab, we now see that the IP address of Sophos Firewall is listed as Served Sophos Appliance. This indicates STA Collector has successfully established communication with Sophos Firewall. Now that STAS has been installed and configured, verify STAS is working properly. Log off from the workstation and then log in once again. Go to STAS, Advanced, Show Live Users. This displays the live users detected by the STA Collector. You can also see the STAS live users on the Sophos Firewall Web Admin, Current Activities, Live Users. So that completes the STAS installation. I hope you found this video series useful. Let us know by giving us a thumb up on TechBits, and let us know if we resolved your issue. Check out the documentation for this video in the video description. For further assistance, view and post questions on community.sophos.com, and go to techbits.sophos.com for more great videos like this one. Thank you for watching.